He said it in front of everyone. Your mother ruins every picture. It was as if the air in the hall froze inside my chest. The music stopped, at least for me. That man, who in a few hours would marry my daughter, looked at me like I was an inconvenience, not a mother. The bride laughed, nervous. And me? I smiled, the kind of smile only someone bleeding inside can hold. The rehearsal went on, lights strung between the vines, cameras, laughter. But what stayed with me was the sharp whisper he let slip near her ear, and by his bad luck, it reached mine too. Tell her not to interfere. It's our day, not hers. From that moment, every glance became a mirror of disdain, and every silence of mine, a response. I didn't plan anything. But some humiliations awaken strengths we forget we have. That night, when the rehearsal ended, I touched the lace of the dress I had sewn myself. It had belonged to my grandmother, Agnes. She used to say, "Some threads hold memories, others hold courage." And I understood what she meant. Because courage began there, between that sideways glance and the first tear I didn't let fall. If you've ever been diminished on the day you were supposed to be celebrated, stay with me until the end. This story doesn't end at the altar. It ends with the truth. Leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and tell me, have you ever swallowed your tears just to keep from ruining the moment? When I think about how it all began, I almost convince myself that fate likes to wrap tragedies in party paper. Rachel has always been the kind of daughter who believes in goodness, even when trouble is waving from across the street. Since she was little, she wore flowers in her hair and hope in her eyes. After her father died, I became both the foundation and the roof. I worked double shifts, gave up everything to make sure she had the dreams I couldn't afford. Maybe that's why, when Ryan showed up, I wanted to believe right along with her. He arrived with a smile that looked rehearsed in the mirror, a charm with an agenda. He was a lawyer, smooth talker, the type who compliments while looking more at himself than anyone else. At dinners, he held a wine glass like he owned the room. And still, Rachel saw him as the perfect man. I saw something I couldn't name yet. A small chill, almost imperceptible, that grew every time he called her my girl in a possessive tone. The proposal was at a vineyard in Sonoma, the same place where everything would later fall apart. Rachel cried, I smiled, and the sun set golden behind the hills. He called me his second mother that day. Little did I know that weeks later he'd treat me like an obstacle. I remember sewing my daughter's dress with Agnes's lace, my grandmother's. Every stitch was a prayer disguised as thread. I thought I was sewing happiness, not a warning. Back then, I still believed love and respect were inseparable. Now I know, love can blind you, but disrespect teaches you. And it was in that contrast that the story truly began. Sometimes the past warns you about what the present refuses to see. I just didn't listen in time. That morning looked like it was promising paradise. Warm light through the window, the scent of flowers in the hallway, and a house full of cheerful voices. It was the day of the wedding rehearsal. Rachel came down the stairs laughing, with that glow only confident youth carries. I watched from a distance, caught between pride and fear. I still believed every kind of love could be saved by goodwill. That smiling, breathing deep, and avoiding conflict was enough. I had spent months sewing my dress, a soft lavender tone, discreet, made from my grandmother Agnes's old lace. Every stitch by hand, every detail, a memory. It was more than clothing. It was an emotional heirloom. When I put it on and looked in the mirror, I felt ready, finally ready, to see her get married. But one look from Ryan tore that feeling apart inside me. He saw me coming down the stairs, adjusting my pearl necklace. He walked closer, smiled slightly, and said, low enough for no one else to hear, "Are you really planning to wear that?" "That what?" I asked. "That dress. Looks like something for a funeral." I froze. No anger, no shame, just silence. A silence that burned. Rachel appeared right after, not noticing the tension. "You look beautiful, Mom," she said, and I forced a smile. But Ryan turned to her and muttered, quiet, but not quiet enough, "Babe, ask her to change. She'll throw off the pictures." And right there, among white roses and cameras, I felt the first crack of the day. It wasn't about a dress. It was about my place in that story. a place he was trying to push into the shadows. During the rehearsal, I noticed the way he guided her, how she laughed to hide his controlling gestures. When she missed a step, he squeezed her hand, disguising dominance as affection. It was subtle, even elegant, but I know that look, the look of someone who wants control. I've lived too long not to recognize it. During the toast, he gave a speech about the new family beginning, mentioning his parents, his uncles, his friends, but not me. Not a single word. The crowd applauded, Rachel cried with emotion, and I sat in silence, holding my empty glass. Later, as everyone scattered, he approached me again. That expensive cologne, that practiced smile. You understand, right? It's our moment. The bride needs to feel light, without emotional interference. He said it looking right into my eyes. Emotional interference. That's what he called me. As if a mother's love were a nuisance, as if my presence were a stain. That night, alone, I went back to my room and hung the dress on the wardrobe door. The lamplight caught the lace. It shimmered softly. I thought of Agnes, of how she taught me to sew and to stay silent. But for the first time, I realized that silence also has limits. I picked up my phone, opened the copy of the civil marriage contract Rachel had shown me weeks earlier. Something had bothered me then, a misplaced signature, a new line added, and in that moment, something inside me woke up. The stitching of my naivete began to unravel. Betrayal doesn't always start with a kiss. Sometimes it starts with a comment, and I'd already heard enough to know something very wrong was coming. In the days following the rehearsal, the silence between us felt heavy as stone. Rachel would come to me, trying to mask her unease. "Mom, are you okay?" He was just tense about the preparations. And I'd answer sweetly, "I'm fine, honey. Weddings make everyone a little tense." But inside me, something pulsed. Not anger, but awareness. I began noticing the little things. How Ryan insisted on controlling everything. The menu, the flowers, the schedule. He called the wedding planner directly, corrected Rachel whenever she disagreed, and labeled as details everything that mattered to her. And she accepted it, smiling, the way someone confuses control for care. In the wedding group chat, they created a new guest list. My name was there, but with no photo, no caption. When I asked about the head table, Rachel replied, uneasy. "Oh, Mom, I think they put you with the relatives from out of town. It's just more organized that way." Relatives from out of town? I was the mother of the bride. At the boutique, while we picked up her gown, the clerk made an offhand comment. The groom asked to raise the neckline, said he didn't want anything vulgar. Rachel blushed, pretended to laugh, and I held my breath. It was like watching a sweet woman being shaped by hands that looked gentle, but squeezed until it hurt. One afternoon, amid flowers and spreadsheets, Haley, the maid of honor, found me in the garden. "Mary, can I tell you something without hurting your feelings?" she began. I nodded. "Ryan, he talks about you like you're a problem to be managed." I stayed quiet. "He said he wants to avoid emotional scenes at the altar, that you're unpredictable." I smiled, and that was the moment fear turned into clarity. That night, while everyone slept, I went to the kitchen. I picked up the bouquet I'd made for Rachel myself, lavender and white lilies. I touched the petals, smelled that old scent from my grandmother's house. It was simple, beautiful, pure. But when I brought it to the dressing room the next day, he, Ryan, walked in right behind me. "These flowers smell like mothballs. Take them away." The florist hesitated. Rachel froze. I simply picked up the bouquet again, said, "Of course," and left. I placed the flowers in the trunk of my car. The sound of the lid closing was the loudest noise of the day. Driving home, I realized that wedding was no longer a celebration. It was a performance. And I was being written out of the script, scene by scene. The next morning, I woke up with a strange calm. It wasn't the kind of pain that hurts anymore. It was the kind that teaches. I started noting down dates, conversations, details. I kept copies of documents, emails, receipts. Instinct, maybe. Or premonition. Because when someone tries to erase you, the first thing you need to save is proof that you existed. Most mothers cry when their daughters get married. I didn't cry, I just felt, and started seeing through the eyes of someone who's been fooled before. During the week of the wedding, The sun seemed to mock me. It shone too brightly, reflected on the glasses, the windows, the rehearsed conversations. On the surface, everything looked perfect. Inside, there was that thin hum, the kind the soul hears when something's wrong. I've always been methodical. I keep receipts, drafts, copies of everything. And while looking through an old folder, trying to find the florist's payment slip, I came across a folded sheet of paper, the civil marriage contract. The same one Rachel had shown me weeks earlier, saying proudly, "Look, Mom, it's just for formality, no big deal." But right there in front of me, the signatures were different. There was a second page with a small, almost hidden line, "Change of property regime, joint ownership of all assets." My body went cold. Rachel always talked about independence. She wanted to keep the small flower studio she inherited from her father. She would never have agreed to that. I folded the paper carefully and sat at the table. The clock struck midnight. Its ticking echoed too loud. I grabbed my phone and scrolled through old messages. Days earlier, Ryan had told Rachel not to worry about the legal stuff. He'd handle everything. And she, in love, trusted him. "Just sign here, babe," he'd said. And she signed. From that moment, I stopped being a wounded mother and became an observer. I started watching every gesture of his with a new lens. At breakfast, I heard him bragging over the phone. After Saturday, everything changes. The financial structure gets simpler. Financial structure? I wrote that phrase on a napkin. My heart trembled, but my mind was cold. The next day, I ran into Haley at the venue. She looked at me seriously and asked, "Mary, do you feel like Ryan's hiding something?" I nodded, without going into detail. "Then let me know if you need me. I've seen things too. Messages on his phone, names that aren't Rachel's." She hesitated. "But I don't want to ruin her wedding." I smiled sadly. Sometimes, to save someone, you really do have to ruin a dream. Back home, I called the county clerk's office. The clerk was direct. "Yes, there was a recent amendment, filed 4 days ago." 4 days. And Rachel had no idea. The floor seemed to move under me, but I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I placed the document inside a white envelope, wrote the date on it, and put it in the drawer of my nightstand. Something told me that paper would be important. I didn't know how yet, but I knew when, the moment my daughter's innocence would cost her too much. That night, I sat in the garden. The flowers Ryan had rejected were starting to wilt, but they still smelled sweet. I looked up at the sky and thought of my grandmother. "Mary, truth is patient. It waits for the right moment to show itself." Those words came back whole, as if whispered right there beside me. So I waited. And while the world slept, I stopped being just a spectator. I became a witness, and when the time came, I'd be the voice of revelation. Every lie makes a sound before it falls apart. His was already starting to echo. On the second to last day before the wedding, I arrived early at the vineyard. The sun hadn't fully risen yet, and the dew covered the white chairs like silent veils. While the decorators adjusted the flowers, I heard the click of a camera. I turned. There he was, Caleb Monroe, the photographer. He worked quietly, almost invisible, but his eyes were sharp. He seemed to notice what others pretended not to see. He caught my gaze and smiled faintly. "You're the bride's mother, right?" I nodded, straightening the scarf around my neck. "Yes, Mary Ann Collins." "I'm Caleb. I like capturing what's just outside the frame," he said, pointing the camera toward a fallen flower on the ground. "That's where truth usually hides." That sentence stayed with me. Later, when the hall buzzed with voices and rehearsed laughter, I noticed Caleb watching discreetly. During the rehearsal dinner, he came over and offered me a glass of water. "Are you okay, Mrs. Collins?" I smiled. "Yes, just tired." He hesitated. "I saw how the groom spoke to you this morning. That wasn't right." My body froze. Few people noticed, and even fewer dared to comment. "Thank you for saying that," I replied. "Some people think they own the scene," he said softly, "but they forget the camera records even what they don't want shown." We stood there in silence, watching the rehearsal toast. Ryan spoke loudly, showing off. Rachel looked at him with admiration, unaware of the control hidden behind gentle gestures. Caleb kept clicking quietly, focusing more on their faces than on the scenery. It was as if he was documenting something beyond love. When the guests left, Caleb approached again. "May I give you some advice?" "Of course." "Keep copies of everything that's yours. Photos, messages, documents. Sometimes memory needs help defending itself." I looked at him, surprised. "Why do you say that?" "Because I've photographed many weddings, and I know when someone is faking a smile." Those words felt like a disguised warning. At the end of the day, I slipped the envelope with the altered contract into my purse, next to my phone. And for the first time in weeks, I felt that someone was on my side, even without knowing everything. The next morning, before the civil ceremony, Caleb came to me with a small memory card. "Keep this, just in case. These are copies of today's photos. Sometimes one record is worth 1,000 defenses." I looked into his eyes and saw genuine empathy, not pity. And that's when I realized there are other ways to protect yourself besides confrontation. You can arm yourself with truth, not weapons. As he walked away, I felt a subtle relief, like taking a full breath for the first time in ages. That quiet alliance gave me something I hadn't had since the beginning: direction. From then on, I stopped being just a mother trying to understand. I became a woman observing and collecting evidence. Through Caleb's lens, I discovered that what's outside the picture is often what truly matters. Not every ally shows up wearing a cape or carrying a sword. Some arrive with a camera and eyes that see what the world tries to hide. It was the night before the wedding when he knocked on my door. 3 firm, measured knocks, as if even the sound needed to be under control. I opened it. Ryan stood there immaculate. White shirt, sleeves rolled up, false smile. The kind of man who learned to hide poison behind a calm voice. "May I come in, Mrs. Collins?" "Of course." He stepped in, glanced around, and stopped at the dress hanging on the rack. "I see you still plan on wearing the lilac one." "I do, yes." He adjusted his watch. "It's curious how some people insist on standing out at moments that aren't about them." That sentence sliced through the air like a blade. "I don't want to stand out, Ryan. I just want to see my daughter happy." And she is, or was, until yesterday's rehearsal. He stepped closer, hands in his pockets. "Rachel seemed upset. She said you've been tense, distant, not confident about the wedding." "She's just nervous." "Maybe. But you know how it is. Any negative energy can ruin such an important day. I worry about that." His tone was sweet, his intent threatening. I stayed silent. He went on. "I just came to ask for cooperation. You can watch from a distance, smile for the photos, and enjoy the dinner afterward. No speeches, no tears. Deal?" "Speeches?" "Rachel mentioned you wanted to say a few words. Not necessary. We'll already have the official toast." I looked straight into his eyes. "Ryan, don't worry. I know exactly when it's time to speak." He chuckled, a short laugh that betrayed his discomfort. "Good. I hope so, because one wrong word could ruin the mood, and all our reputations." He started to leave, then paused at the door. "Oh, one more thing. The photographer. Caleb, right? Keep your distance. I don't want rumors about private conversations. You know how people talk." That attempt at control lit a fire inside me. "Funny. You're worried about what people might say? Or what they might see?" For a second, his smile vanished. His eyes hardened. Then he put the mask back on. "Good night, Mrs. Collins. Rest well. Tomorrow's a big day. For all of us." I closed the door calmly, though my hands were trembling. I leaned my forehead against the wood and breathed deeply. His cologne still lingered in the air, mixed with the lavender scent of my scarf. It smelled like control, like manipulation. And right then I knew he already suspected me. I took the envelope with the copy of the contract and hid it inside the hem of my dress, the one place no one would think to look. Then I sat on the bed and thought of Rachel. So sweet, so blind. And I realized this war wouldn't be fought with shouts. It would be silent, like the steady stitching of old lace. In the mirror, I saw my reflection. My eyes no longer looked sad. They looked ready. He thought he could silence me. But some women learn to speak precisely when the world tries to shut them up. The night before the wedding was the longest of my life. The guest house was silent, the wind rustled through the vines, and the clock mocked me with every tick. I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying my conversation with Ryan, his cynical tone, his control disguised as concern. Something inside me repeated, "He's afraid of something, and whoever's afraid is hiding something." I picked up my phone. A notification blinked in the corner of the screen. New message, Haley. "Mary, I think I need to show you something. Now." I got out of bed, threw on a coat, and walked to the courtyard, where the air smelled of wet earth and crushed roses. Haley was waiting near the fountain, pale-faced, holding her phone. "Sorry for the hour, but I couldn't sleep with this." She turned the phone toward me. On the screen, Ryan, smiling, holding a brunette woman. The caption read, "2 years, and we're still us." My stomach turned. Is this old? No, posted 2 weeks ago. He deleted it after an hour, but a friend of mine took a screenshot. Look at the location, Palm Springs. He told Rachel he was on a business trip. And that woman? Her name's Elena Price, works with him. I've seen them together before. The wind blew hard, as if the night itself reacted with me. I closed my eyes. It wasn't surprise, it was confirmation. The humiliation, the disdain, the control, it all made sense. This wasn't arrogance. It was guilt masked as superiority. "Haley, can you send me that?" "Of course. But Mary, what are you going to do?" "Tell the truth, when the time is right." I went back to my room. My heart was pounding to the rhythm of old memories. I opened the envelope with the altered contract and placed the screenshot beside it. 2 pieces of evidence, one financial, one emotional. Both spoke the same language, betrayal. At dawn, Caleb knocked softly on my window. "Sorry to bother you, but you need to see this." He handed me a small flash drive. "These are photos from yesterday. Ryan and his sister's maid of honor were meeting behind the tent. I thought it was just conversation until..." He hesitated. "Better if you see for yourself." I plugged it into the old laptop I'd brought. The pictures showed Ryan with the same woman from Haley's screenshots, Elena Price. In the first, they were laughing. In the second, touching faces. In the third, kissing. Behind them, the wedding banner, Rachel and Ryan. The cold shock in my chest was physical, but with it came a new serenity. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just looked at those images and thought, I told life it could test me, but not break me. I printed the photos at the Vineyard's office while everyone slept. Then I placed each one inside a white envelope, along with the contract and a copy of Haley's message. 3 pieces of one puzzle. On the back of the main envelope, I wrote, "Not everything that shines is love." I slipped the note into the prayer book Rachel would carry at the ceremony, the same book I gave her at 15, after her father died. I expected the pain to come back, but what I felt instead was strength. When the sun rose, the vineyard smelled of fresh bread and anticipation. Rachel hugged me. "Mom, I promise I'll make you proud today." "You already do, sweetheart." As she smiled, I watched Ryan from afar. He was on the phone, gesturing. Same charm, same rehearsed smile. But now I knew, and he didn't. Before leaving, I left another identical envelope on Father Richard's desk. Only his name written on it. Nothing more. The truth was ready, waiting for the altar. Some secrets aren't revealed by shouting, but by leaving the right proof in the right place, at the right time. And that day, I knew, my silence would make noise. Dawn on the wedding day arrived with the sound of the chapel bells in the distance. While everyone rushed between makeup brushes and nervous laughter, I felt a strange silence inside me, the kind that comes right before the inevitable. My lavender dress lay across the bed. Agnes's lace seemed to glow with its own light, as if it held old secrets. Maybe it did. I sat at the desk and spread out the evidence before me, the altered contract, the photos with the mistress, and Haley's message. I opened a new folder on my laptop and arranged everything by date. That's when I noticed something even worse. Among the files Caleb had sent, there was a short audio clip. He had accidentally left the camera microphone on while shooting. Ryan's voice was clear, speaking to another man. "Once the registration's done, everything goes under my name. She won't even notice. And if the mother-in-law gets in the way, I can discredit her. I've got proof she's emotionally unstable." The other man laughed. "You're cold, man." "Practical," he replied. My whole body went numb. He didn't just want to control Rachel. He wanted to take everything she had, her studio, her house, her security. And if anything went wrong, I'd be the scapegoat. I took a deep breath. The anger rose, but the mother's instinct was stronger. I shut the laptop and began to plan. At 8 a.m., Haley came into the room. "Did you sleep?" "A little, enough to wake up clear-headed." She looked at me and understood without words. "You're going to do something." "No, the truth is." "Can I help?" "Yes. Just be alert when Father Richard steps up to the altar. He'll receive an envelope. Make sure no one stops him from opening it." She nodded, serious. "Mary, if this blows up, Rachel might hate you. I'd rather be hated for saving her than loved for staying silent." We sat in silence for a while. Outside, I could hear the guests arriving, their laughter carried by the breeze. A group of bridesmaids passed by, smelling of perfume and anticipation. Out there, Ryan was already posing for photos, radiating confidence. And for a brief moment, I felt sorry for him. Not for what he'd lose, but for what he'd never be capable of feeling. Real love. Just before noon, Father Richard found me. "Mrs. Collins, I received an envelope addressed to me. Is it yours?" "In a way, yes. Please open it during the final blessing. Not before, not after." He looked at me for a moment, as if reading between my words. "Are you sure about what you're doing?" "I'm sure my daughter deserves to wake up to her own life before it's too late. And if she doesn't understand now, one day she will, and she'll forgive me." He held the envelope carefully. "Then let's allow God to choose the right moment." I left the room and found Caleb adjusting his camera near the side door. "Everything ready?" I asked. "Yes. But there's something you should know. Ryan tried to bribe the event planner to delete some photos from yesterday." "Delete photos?" "The ones with the woman from last night. But I already made a backup. They're safe." "Thank you, Caleb. If anything happens, you'll know what to do." He nodded. The truth deserves to be recorded. As I walked toward the ceremony hall, I saw Rachel appear in her white gown. She was radiant and innocent. For a second, I wanted to stop everything, hold her tight, take her away. But I knew I couldn't save her from pain, only lead her to clarity. When the time came, the ceremony began. The guests stood, the organ played softly. Ryan waited at the altar with that same polished smile. When he looked at me, his eyes were triumphant. But I was no longer a woman who bowed to masks. I sat in the front row and felt the fabric of the lace under my fingertips. Steady, ancestral, unbreakable. And there, with a calm heart, I realized I didn't need to destroy anyone. I just needed to reveal what was already there. Some victories don't come from shouting, but from the serenity of knowing destiny is about to show its hand. The church seemed to breathe with me. The stained glass windows filtered the light in shades of gold and lilac, the same tones as my dress. Guests whispered, the orchestra tuned its instruments, and the sound of heels echoed against the wooden pews. While everyone waited for the bride, I was waiting for the truth to walk in with her. Father Richard stood beside the altar, the envelope discreetly tucked into his breviary. No one noticed a thing, not even Ryan, smiling with the confidence of a man who believed he controlled every camera, every person, every fate. But there was someone new in the scene, Evelyn Moore, the parish attorney and an old friend of the priest. I didn't know her until he quietly called me aside before the ceremony. "Mrs. Collins, this is Ms. Moore. I asked her here because what you've revealed may require a formal witness." She shook my hand, steady gaze, calm voice. "Father Richard told me the essentials. You have documents, correct?" "Yes, here." I handed her the envelope with copies of the altered contract and the photos. She scanned them quickly, her eyes tracing every legal line. "This is serious. He changed the property agreement after the original signing. That's civil fraud. And my daughter signed without knowing. Then you're about to prevent an injustice from being sealed at the altar." I paused. "I don't want humiliation, just truth. And you'll have it. If the priest opens that envelope in front of witnesses, the ceremony is automatically suspended. That's both legal and moral." She placed a hand gently over mine. "You did what any mother would do. Protect her child before it's too late." In that moment, I felt something I hadn't in a long time. Support. I was no longer just a hurt woman. I was a woman backed by reason. What was about to happen wouldn't be scandal. It would be justice revealed in daylight. Haley arrived soon after, hiding her nerves behind a forced smile. Everything ready? Almost. And you? Phone charged, heart racing. Save that for later. Today, he's the one who'll have to explain himself. Haley let out a shaky laugh. You're too calm, Mary. It's the kind of calm that only comes when you stop fearing the inevitable. Right before the bridal entrance, Caleb approached me. Are you sure you want all of this recorded? Yes, but promise me, if anything happens, send the footage to Ms. Moore. Deal. He squeezed my hand. The lens of his camera caught the golden light from the window, and for a moment, it looked like a blessing. Rachel appeared at the end of the aisle, glowing, carrying the bouquet the florist had remade, the same one Ryan had once rejected. When she saw me, she smiled. Mom, thank you for being here. Where else would I be, my love? The organ began to play, and everyone stood. She walked toward the altar, time slowing around her. Ryan waited, the same rehearsed grin on his face. But when his eyes met mine, his expression stiffened. He could feel it. He sensed something slipping from his grasp. Behind the altar, Father Richard looked at me subtly. I nodded. He understood. As the words of the ceremony unfolded, I watched everything. His gestures, their exchanged looks, Rachel's fragile faith in him. But what struck me most was the contrast between the priest's calm and Ryan's growing unease. He kept fidgeting, straightening his tie, glancing around. Something in him knew, the weight of that unopened envelope. Ms. Moore, seated near the altar, remained composed, as if already aware of the outcome. Caleb filmed quietly, his camera a silent witness, and Haley, among the bridesmaids, kept glancing at me, waiting for a signal. Everything was aligned: chance, fate, and courage. As the priest began the final prayer, the clock above the pulpit struck 11:11. A repeated number, symbolic, as if the universe itself confirmed the exact moment truth would be spoken. There are moments when time stops, not for a miracle, but for justice. And I knew the next sound filling that church wouldn't be the bell, nor the I do. It would be the sound of masks falling. The ceremony had barely ended when Ryan walked toward me wearing a stiff smile, the kind that never reaches the eyes. The cameras still flashed, guests chatted happily, and Rachel, glowing, hugged her bridesmaids. But his gaze was locked on me, a silent warning. Can we talk for a minute, Mrs. Collins? Of course. We slipped quietly out the back of the chapel, down a stone hallway that muffled the laughter and music. Outside, the air was heavy, the scent of roses mixing with the metallic tang of tension. He leaned against the wall, adjusting his jacket. You've been uneasy, haven't you? I've been thinking. Thinking too much, maybe. He took a step closer, his expression calm. Too calm. You know what worries me, Mary? You. Rachel trusts you. And if she starts thinking her mother's lost balance, this whole day could fall apart. Lost balance? Yes, I get it. Weddings are emotional. Widowed mothers can get vulnerable. You must miss attention. His poison came in drops, diluted in courtesy. I looked straight at him. Don't project your own needs onto me, Ryan. I don't crave attention. I crave respect. He gave a short, cold laugh. Respect is earned, not demanded. Funny, you could say the same about trust. The shadow of his smile faltered. I've heard you've been showing people documents. You know slander without proof is a crime, right? Proof! That's one thing I'm not lacking. His jaw tightened. If you open your mouth today, you'll destroy your own daughter. Think about it. The embarrassment, the headlines, the videos. Rachel will never forgive you. You want me to stay quiet to protect you? I want you not to destroy the life of the person you love. For a moment, the world tilted. The threat was subtle, but cruel. The kind of emotional blackmail only men too sure of themselves know how to deliver, until that confidence turns into fear. You know what surprises me, Ryan? What? How you talk about love and destruction like they're the same thing. He stepped forward, invading my space. I'll pretend I didn't hear that, because if I respond, you'll lose more than you imagine. And have you ever thought about what happens when lies lose their stage? The sound of footsteps interrupted us. Haley appeared, breathless. Mary, the priest is calling. It's time. Ryan straightened his tie, regaining composure. Don't forget what I said. Think of your daughter. I do, every single day. That's exactly why I'm here. He walked off first, his hurried pace disguised as calm. I stood there for a moment, staring at the empty corridor, my heart pounding in my throat. My hands were trembling, not from fear, but from something older, deeper. The courage of the women who came before me, my grandmother, my mother, seemed to hum inside my veins. When I returned to the nave, everyone was in place. Rachel, beautiful and unaware. Haley, still as a statue. Caleb, camera already rolling. Father Richard, adjusting his breviary. And on the altar, the envelope. Ryan tried to hide his unease, glancing around, forcing a smile. But his hands wouldn't stay still. Each time the priest turned a page, I saw fear flicker across Ryan's face. Then he made his first desperate move. He signaled to the event coordinator. The microphone went dead. For a second, there was total silence. Father Richard raised his voice. My children, before the blessing, there's something that must be said. Ryan lifted a hand, forcing a laugh. Father, perhaps we could stick to the script, yes? No, Mr. Lawson. Here, truth is part of the ritual. Guests exchanged puzzled glances. Rachel frowned. And right then, Ryan realized, control was gone. No microphone, no charm, no lie could save him. He tried to silence me, but fate always finds a way to give back the voice to those who were meant to speak. The air in the church grew heavy. The organ stopped, and guests looked around in confusion as the priest's microphone came back on with a sharp pop. Ryan stood motionless, pretending to smile. Rachel, dazed, searched his face for answers, and found only tension. I sat in the front row, my heart beating slowly, not from fear, but from certainty. Father Richard lifted the envelope carefully. Before we bless this union, I must clarify something entrusted to me, not out of malice, but out of conscience. His voice echoed through the nave, firm and solemn. The church went silent. Ryan took a step forward. Father, this is highly inappropriate. Inappropriate, the priest interrupted, would be blessing a union built on deceit. Whispers began to ripple through the crowd. All eyes turned to me. I didn't move. The lace of my dress felt alive against my skin, as if my grandmother's courage were breathing through it. The priest opened the envelope and unfolded 3 sheets. The first, the altered contract. The second, the photographs. The third, a copy of the recorded conversation. The sound of paper unfolding was louder than any voice. Mr. Lawson, said the priest, Mrs. Collins came to me concerned about the integrity of this ceremony. Before any blessing, I must ask, do you confirm that you changed the property agreement without your fiancé's consent? Ryan tried to laugh, but his voice cracked. This is absurd, a misunderstanding of legal terms. The priest pressed on. And these photos, taken this very week, do you recognize the woman with you? Photoshopped! Are you sure? A voice called out from the back. It was Caleb raising his camera. I can show the original files, time-stamped and GPS verified. The silence turned into shock. Rachel trembled, staring at him. Ryan, is it true? He grabbed her arm. Babe, this is your mother's doing. She's always hated me. That's when my body moved on its own. I stood slowly. No, Ryan, I never hated you. I just saw what you tried to hide, and I couldn't let you destroy my daughter by turning love into ownership. He rushed toward me, furious, his face flushed. You ruined everything. Your bitterness. Don't blame me for speaking the truth. The blame belongs to the one who created it. The priest stepped down from the altar, hand raised. Please, Mr. Lawson, compose yourself. This ceremony is suspended. Rachel staggered, and Haley caught her. I didn't know, Rachel whispered. Now you do, sweetheart, I said softly. And that's enough. Evelyn Moore, the attorney, rose from her seat, holding the documents high. I've already contacted the local court. The contract alteration was filed irregularly. You'll face fraud charges. Ryan tried to protest, but Caleb stepped forward. And before you claim I faked anything, here are the originals. He plugged his laptop into the projector. The church walls lit up with images. Ryan smiling beside his lover, kissing her beneath the banner that read, Rachel and Ryan. The murmurs swelled into disbelief. He looked around the room, but no one defended him. Not his friends. Not his parents, not the guests. He stood exposed, stripped of charm, stripped of power. Rachel began to cry. Why? Why would you do this to me? Rachel, I was going to tell you. You mean after you trapped me financially? She said, voice suddenly steady. Haley held her tighter. You're not alone. The priest closed his breviary. This wedding is annulled. Let this temple remain a house of truth, not of appearances. Ryan stepped back, pale. You can't do this to me. We can, said the attorney. And we must. Justice begins when someone has the courage to say no. He looked at me one last time, but the woman he'd tried to humiliate had become a mirror, and the reflection condemned him. I sat back down, exhausted, yet light. Rachel knelt in front of me, sobbing. Mom, forgive me. There's nothing to forgive, my love. Only lessons to learn. The flowers on the altar released a soft fragrance. And in the middle of chaos, I realized peace isn't silence, it's truth. The plan was complete. What I had sown with love and pain, fate had torn apart with justice. The silence after the priest's announcement didn't sound like church silence. It sounded like the edge of an abyss. I stood there, Agnes's lace brushing my wrist, watching my daughter's dignity tremble like a veil in the wind. Ryan raised his hands, theatrical, asking for calm, and for a fleeting second he almost looked like a cornered boy. Almost. Because when he opened his mouth, out came the man I already knew. This is a setup. She's always hated me. The she had my face, my story, my scars. I took a breath, stepped forward, and said quietly but completely, I don't hate you, Ryan. I just won't let you turn love into shackles. Guests craned their necks like a startled flock. I heard bracelets clink, a sob split in half, the old wood of the pew creak as if it too had an opinion. Father Richard kept his hand over the breviary like a man holding the reins of chaos. Caleb filmed in silence, the glass eye of his camera fixed, almost compassionate, and that gave me strength to face the man who had tried to reduce me to background decor. Rachel, pale, touched his arm. Is it true? She asked, as if knocking on a door she hoped was a dream. He leaned toward her, whispering something meant for her alone, but the altar mic betrayed him. Babe, you know your mother exaggerates. She needs attention. She's lonely, a widow. It's who she is. The air turned cold. Lonely. That word was aimed at me but struck every woman who ever raised children with both hands and her body, who learned to fix leaks in silence, who slept with unpaid bills under the pillow and fear beside her. Don't confuse grief with loneliness or care with control, I said, my voice steady. I've cried in peace. You're the one who's never known it. He laughed, a short, cracking sound. You just want the spotlight, he snapped. And you picked the wrong day. I picked the day my daughter's name was about to be stolen on paper, I said. This day is perfect for the light. The priest asked everyone to sit and, with a simple gesture, reopened the envelope as if presenting evidence to conscience itself. There is clear proof of fraud, he said, and the whispers turned to wind, and evidence of infidelity relevant to free consent. Caleb projected the photo sequence on a screen improvised at the altar. First, Ryan smiling, the smile he saved for applause. Second, his hand on Elena's face. Third, the kiss beneath the wedding banner. Rachel closed her eyes but did not collapse. I felt pride, the kind you feel for flowers that survive hail. Haley, trembling with love and anger, squeezed her hand. I'm here. The crowd divided. Some turned away in pity. Others stared because they had to see to believe. And I realized then, shame changes owners when truth turns on the light. Ryan switched tactics. This is fake. It's persecution, he shouted. Evelyn Moore, the attorney, stood, holding up the documents. The registry confirms the unlawful change in property status, Mr. Pierce, and the photos are time-stamped originals. He tried to storm toward the projector, but the event coordinator, his supposed subordinate, stepped in front of him, hands out, calm but firm. Please. That please carried generations of decent people inside it. I turned to Rachel. Sweetheart, I'm letting you choose with all your senses awake. If you say yes knowing everything, I'll respect it. But you shouldn't have to say yes blind. She drew a loud breath, as if remembering how to use her lungs again, and looked at me with a mix of child and woman. "Mom, I can't say yes to someone who hides the world from me." The priest folded his hands. "This ceremony is suspended." What followed wasn't scandal. It was the sound of a chain breaking. Ryan tried to reshape the moment. "We can talk privately, Rachel. We can fix this. Your mother's manipulating you. She's jealous of what we have, jealous of our future." "Our?" she said, straightening her back. "You forged my signature. You lied to me. You tried to silence the woman who raised me. What exactly do you call our?" He reached for her waist. She stepped back. Simple, final. "Don't touch me." The whisper turned into an applause inside me. I wanted to hug her, but didn't. Love, I realized, is also knowing when not to steal someone else's victory. Then Ryan's father stood from the third pew, driven by something like exhausted decency. "Son, apologize," he said in a tired voice, the voice of a man who'd long known his child's mask. Ryan ignored him, scanning the crowd for allies. He found many faces, but not one hand. "You don't understand what you're destroying." "We're stopping you from destroying someone," the attorney said, her tone calm as a simmering pot. Justice sometimes sounds like a recipe whispered over low heat. I walked to Rachel. Her gown rustled like air, my lace crackled like history. "If you want to leave, I've got the keys." She smiled small but sure. "I want to, but first, I need to say something." She faced the congregation, young but enormous in presence. "I break this engagement not out of shame, but out of respect. For my name, for my mother, for myself." Her voice sliced cleanly through the air. Haley cried softly. The priest closed his eyes and whispered a prayer of gratitude. Caleb lowered the camera a moment, as if asking permission from the truth. And beside my daughter, I felt the whole house of my heart light up. Ryan tried one last trick, his usual one. "I love you, Rachel." It sounded sincere in form and empty in soul. She tilted her head. "Love that hides is a trap. Love that signs my name for me is a prison. Love that hates my mother is a lie." And for the first time, he had no answer. The Polish in his eyes turned to dull glass. I almost pitied him. Almost. But compassion that day belonged to the betrayed, and to those who spoke up in time. "Father, can we go?" I asked, my feet finally grounded. "You can. Go in peace," he said. And it felt as if the entire church opened its doors with both hands. Outside, the air smelled of ripe grapes and approaching rain. The vines that had seen kisses and lies now witnessed something purer. 2 women walking barefoot, mascara streaked, heads held high. Haley followed, holding the train of Rachel's dress, because friends carry the weight that weighs. "I'll drive," she said. I let her. Some courage can be shared. By the car, I opened the trunk. The rejected bouquet, half wilted, waited like a loyal dog. I pulled 2 stems and handed them to my daughter. "Take them, not because he wanted you to, but because you can." She sniffed the flowers, laughed through tears, a sound I stored in a place no amendment could touch. "Thanks for ruining my wedding," she said, and we both laughed, the dry laughter of survivors. "I only ruined the lie," I told her. "The truth still needs watering." As we drove off, I saw the vineyard shrink in the rearview mirror, like a stage after the play, chairs askew, ribbons fallen, echoes without actors. Haley texted Caleb, "Thank you." He replied with a photo of us in silhouette, walking away. No faces, just motion. The perfect image of what can't be explained. The moment a woman becomes her own adult by choice, not by someone else's mistake. At the gate, Rachel leaned her forehead on the window. "Mom, I would have said yes." "I know. And I would have regretted it. Maybe. But you saved me." I almost said mothers don't save, they just show the way, but stayed quiet. Some victories bloom best in silence. I turned on the blinker, merging onto the road. The yellow line ahead looked like an underline beneath our decision. The sky, heavy with clouds, promised rain. I thought of Agnes, of her tiny stitches, of how threads cross not to compete, but to hold. "Some threads keep memories, others keep courage," she used to say. I glanced at Rachel, holding the once-rejected bouquet like her own pulse. "Are we going to be okay?" she asked, not childlike, just honest. We'll be dignified, I said. And dignity, I learned late, is when your soul finally fits back inside your body. 2 days later, the vineyard stood empty. Napkins still carried wine stains, the floral arrangements were wilting, but the air felt clean. People had gone back to their routines, and the gossip was already fading into silence. Only Rachel and I remained in the guest house, surrounded by boxes, dresses, and memories that didn't hurt quite as much anymore. She slept curled on the couch, wrapped in a linen blanket. The rejected bouquet sat in a makeshift vase on the table. The flowers, though tired, still gave off their scent. I stood watching them all morning. They looked stronger now, maybe because, like us, they'd survived humiliation and learned how to breathe again. The phone rang. It was Evelyn Moore. "Mrs. Collins, the contract amendment's been voided. The fraud is under investigation." "Thank you. Mr. Pierce has already left the state. But the local press found part of the story. Let them tell whatever they want. What matters is my daughter's free. She's lucky to have you." I smiled, weary. "Not luck, Ms. Moore. Instinct." I hung up and looked out the window. Rachel was stirring awake. "Mom, what time is it?" "Time to go home." "Which one?" "The real one. The one where we understand each other even in silence." We spent the rest of the day gathering what was left of the dream. Fabrics, shoes, invitations. Every object seemed to whisper an apology. By evening, I donated the flowers to the parish. Father Richard thanked me with a knowing smile. "You've restored the meaning of the word blessing." I just did what a mother does, and reminded us what faith truly means. As we walked through the garden, Rachel held my hand. "Mom, I was scared I'd end up hating you." So was I. But when he said that you were needy, I realized he always tried to belittle what I admired most in you. "What's that?" "The way you love without asking permission." We stood there, the two of us listening to the wind weave through the vines. The same landscape that had witnessed disgrace now seemed to breathe rebirth. There was no audience, no applause, just the quiet sound of something rebuilding itself. Before we left, I went back to the chapel. The lavender dress still hung there. I ran my hand over the lace and closed my eyes. "Thank you, Agnes," I whispered. Not for miracles, but for reminding me that courage, too, is an inheritance. That night, when we got home, the kitchen clock read 9:22. The same time, weeks earlier, when Ryan had said my presence ruined things. I sat at the table and opened a new notebook. Some days break us so others can exist. Today, I learned that justice is what time calls the courage of those who refuse to stay silent. Rachel appeared in the doorway, smiling softly. "Writing?" "Yes." "What?" "The last line of something he'll never understand." She came closer, hugging me from behind. "Mom, you saved me without hurting me. That's rare." "No, sweetheart. That's love, grown up." The clock struck 10. It's ticking almost like a prayer. Outside, the flowers Ryan had called old were blooming again. Dignity, like them, always returns, when it's planted deep enough. 6 months later, the garden bloomed again. The same lavender Ryan once called old now framed the gate of my home. The scent was the same as before, but the meaning had changed. It no longer reminded me of contempt. It smelled like survival. Rachel reopened her flower studio. The sign above the door reads, "Agnes and Mary," 2 women who stitched courage together with thread, tears, and time. Behind the counter, she welcomes brides every day, and sometimes mothers who come alone, seeking comfort among roses and fabric. When that happens, Rachel serves them tea and silence. She learned from me that silence born of truth is shelter, not a cage. I stay in the background, helping. I tie ribbons for bouquets and listen to stories. Every woman who walks in carries her own kind of pain. And somehow, each one reminds me who I was before I learned to stand again. Sometimes Caleb stops by with his camera. He photographs the garden, the flowers, Rachel's laughter. He's never spoken about the wedding day. But when our eyes meet, his look says what words don't need to repeat. Truth always finds its light. Haley became our business partner. She runs the studio's social media. She says flowers heal. I believe her. Time, soil, and forgiveness share the same rhythm. Slow, but unfailing. Today I'm writing to you. Maybe you've lived something like what I did. If anyone ever tries to silence you, remember, dignity is the one voice no one can take away. When you choose truth, you might lose the spotlight, but you'll never lose your ground. Now tell me, have you ever faced a moment when you had to choose between silence and self-defense? Share your story in the comments. Your words might help another woman rise. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to remember that truth heals, and dignified silence speaks too. Because every woman carries the power to turn wounds into strength, and every rejected flower can, one day, perfume her own path again.